Hello and welcome to the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. I am the founder and I am your teacher, your host for today. My name is Issachar Bey, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I want to thank you for your consistency with joining us every week, same place, same time. We want to thank all of you who are. If this is your first time listening, let us know what city, what state, what country you're listening from. We are honored. We are so honored. We are so honored to have you guys listening in. I got a lot of great feedback from last week. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying this series. Hopefully, this series can really elevate us and move us to the next level. We are currently in a new series, The 8 Pillars of Success. I wanted to get into this because I felt like it was something that was needed at this very moment. I think that this is something that we needed to definitely focus on and definitely put our attention to, because I believe that where your attention goes, your power flows. And so we put our attention on the pillars of success. Our attention goes there, and therefore our power, our focus goes there, our power flows with it. And it allows us to get activated and begin to utilize these pillars of success. It is my intention that everybody listening to me, listening to the sound of my voice, that you will in some way, somehow, begin to start to stand on these pillars in your everyday life, in your everyday situations and circumstances, whether you're dealing with marriage, whether you're dealing with family issues, whether you're dealing with health, whatever you're dealing with, it is my intention that these pillars will be things that you can stand on to elevate and to increase your livelihood. And so we are forever grateful for all of you. If you find that this content has been a blessing to you and that you have really enjoyed it, please, by all means, hit the share button and begin to either text or email or send out the link to your friends, your family, anybody who you think will be benefited from this information. We ask that if you can, those who are listening, if you can, go ahead and hit the like button. When you hit the like button, it allows us to raise the algorithms, it allows us to expand, and it allows us to grow. So we thank you so greatly for that. And then also for those of you who are first timers, we ask that you hit the subscribe button and that you subscribe to our channel so that you can always be notified of when there's something new that's going to be released, there's something new that's coming out, and something that's getting ready to happen at a certain time in a certain place. And so we want to thank all of you for being connected to us. If you can, we're about to get started. We're going to get into our spiritual mind treatment, where we get into a place of relaxation, a place of settle, a place of quietness, where we're allowing ourselves to get into a quiet space where we can open up our hearts and our minds to receive the teaching that we're going to receive today, that there's no distractions, there's no hindrances, there's no blocks, but that we're open to receive and to intake the words, the concepts, the precepts, the golden nuggets that will be shared on today. And so we thank all of you for, once again, your consistent persistence, your consistent attendance of being present within this community. And we want to say thank you. If you're in a quiet place, sitting down in a quiet, nice place, I want you to, if you can, just go ahead and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Once again, take a deep breath and inhale and exhale. Once again, take a deep breath and inhale and exhale. I turn my awareness to the infinite presence, the divine intelligence that governs all of creation. This presence is absolute, all-powerful, and ever unfolding in perfect harmony. I know that I am not I know that I am not separate from this divine force. I am an expression of it, endowed with the same creative authority that spoke the universe into being. I declare now that I take full ownership of my life. I release any illusion of my destiny, that my destiny is shaped by external forces, circumstances, or the will of others. I know that the power to create, to direct, and to manifest my highest good resides within me. I no longer wait for life to happen to me. I stand in divine authority and consciously create the life I desire. I affirm that every thought I think, every word I speak, every action I take is a blueprint for my future. I release blame, excuses, and hesitation, for I know that I am the architect of my own reality. I claim dominion over my mind and emotions and my choices, knowing that divine law responds unfailingly to my direction. I take ownership of my gifts, my talents, and my divine purpose. I refuse to shrink. I refuse to doubt. I refuse to deform my greatness. I walk boldly, knowing that every opportunity, every resource, and every possibility I need is already within my reach. I align my will with the divine intelligence and trust that my path is unfolding in perfect order. I am not at the mercy of fate. I am the author of my destiny. The power that creates worlds moves through me, as me, and for me. And I embrace this truth fully, knowing that nothing is withheld, nothing is denied, nothing is impossible. I release this truth into divine law, knowing that it is already done. I step forward with confidence, clarity, and unwavering certainty, fully owning my destiny and walking into the full authority of my divine nature. And so it is, and so it is. Once again, I want to thank all of you for tuning in to today's teaching. If this is your first time, please let us know what city, what state, and what country you're listening from. Also, if you can, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps us to become more visible and helps us to lift up the algorithm so that we are more accessible, so that we can build our community and we can grow and expand. So we want to thank everybody for being obedient by hitting the like button. Today, we're continuing our series, The 8 Pillars of Success. And today, we're going to be dealing with pillar number 2, which is the pillar of ownership. Now, I was always taught that you're not grown until you own. Yes. I was always taught that you are not grown until you own. In the word grown is the word own. GROWN. In the word grown is the word own. I want you to write that in the chat. Those of you who are listening, you are not grown until you own. Today we're going to talk about the pillar of ownership. What does that mean? What is that? What does that bring us into this alignment with? Some may ask, how is this going to be relatable to me? I'm glad you asked. If you don't own it, you don't control it. If you don't control it, you're not free. I want to say that again. If you don't own it, you don't control it. If you don't control it, you're not free. The world is structured in a way that rewards ownership and keeps everyone else working for those who own. We're living in a society where people are trained to be workers, not owners, consumers, not creators, renters, not landlords. As long as you are in a position where somebody else dictates your income, your schedule, or your success, you are not in control of your destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving into a place where we are now learning how to create our own reality. Those of you that have been following us, we just came out of the Vision Board Mastery series, and many of you have major vision boards and have put so many great things on there about opportunities and circumstances and experiences that you want to actually bring to fruition in this year of 2025. And I believe and I stand with you in that it will come to pass, and that it has already come to pass. You're just bringing it into the physical manifestation, right? But what we do here is not just a quick fix. We're not just doing magic tricks to get things. We are shaping our livelihood, and we're shaping our consciousness so that we can therefore consistently live the way we want to live and create our own reality. Life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. It's not about how life shows up to you. It's about how you show up to life. Ownership is power. Ownership is leverage. Ownership is freedom. The difference between working hard and working smart is owning something that works for you. Real power isn't just making money. It's owning assets that generate wealth. Just follow me. Just follow me. I know a lot of people who are listening to this are saying to themselves, you know, I want to get on these 8 pillars of success, but I want you to hear what I'm saying, and I really want you to grasp these teachings of the 8 pillars, because even though you may not be here as far as getting into ownership, I want to expand your consciousness. Because if you can take in this information and allow your mind to expand, listen, ladies and gentlemen, once the mind expands, it can never go back to its original form. Once your mind gets a hold of this kind of information and this kind of teaching, you can never go back to the way things used to be, because now you have incorporated, and now you have corresponded, and now you have been able to bring into fruition into your consciousness and comprehend this knowledge. And so what happens is you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to start seeing things differently because of your intake of this information. If you work for a company, they own your time. If you depend on a paycheck, somebody else determines your worth. If you lease everything, your home, your car, your success, you're renting a lifestyle that can be taken away from you at any moment. Now, I know there's a lot going on in the public, and, with major layoffs and different things like that. It's amazing how we are getting into this teaching at this time in this period. As I said before, nothing happens by mistake. There's no accidents and there's no mistakes in the universe. Somebody needs to hear what we're going to be talking about with these 8 pillars of success. It is my intent that something that's said here, some lessons, some golden nuggets, some intentions that you hear today will begin to expand you, will begin to light you on fire, will begin to motivate you and inspire you to move forward into moving into your destiny. But once you step into the role of owner, everything changes. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, everything we do starts in consciousness. Consciousness is your only reality. Everybody who's listening to me now, you've worked a job, you've probably worked a regular corporate job, you probably worked a regular 9 to 5. And if you worked a 9 to 5 and you were a regular employee, and then all of a sudden you got promoted and you were now a manager or a supervisor, you noticed that there was a shift. What happens is now you're at a high level of consciousness. You have access to more information, you have access to more knowledge, and also your job detail has changed. And so what happens is now the people that were at the lower level with you, you now have expanded higher than them. So now there's a separation. Now they're looking at you differently, you're looking at them differently, and what happened was it was a shift in consciousness. This is the same thing that happens when one moves into ownership. Everything changes. You don't just work to survive. You build to thrive. I'm going to say that again. You don't work to survive. You build to thrive. You don't just chase money. You create systems that make money flow to you. Everybody listening to me, you are your own business. When I say the pillar of ownership, understand that ownership is a level of consciousness. Before we can get into the physical manifestations of owning something physically, you must own your identity. You must own your self-awareness. You must own your gifts and your talents, right? Ownership is consciousness. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of operating. It's a way of speaking. It shifts the dynamic of how we act and how we respond to other things. Let's take a look at this. Your brand is because your identity is your power. Your brand is because your identity is your power. Your business becomes wealth. Wealth is built through enterprise. Your intellectual property because your ideas are assets. Your decisions are because you control over your choices is to control over your life. Your brand because your identity is your power. Your business is because wealth is built through enterprises. Your intellectual property is because your ideas are assets. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are listening, a lot of you have dreams. A lot of you have great ideas. And just because you haven't put those ideas to paper, just because you haven't done anything with those ideas, keep in mind, those ideas are assets. Those ideas are books. They're courses. They're digital courses and books and all kind of stuff, right? Because you have great intellectual property that you have within your mind. Your decisions are because you have control over the choices. When you have control over the choices you make, you have control over your life. Ownership is not something you wait for. It's not something that just happens. It is something that you claim. It is something that you grab a hold and that you step into and embrace. Ownership. There's so many different levels of it. Ownership is the foundation of the generational wealth. But if you look around, most people don't own anything. They lease their cars, they finance their cars, they rent their houses. They work from paycheck to paycheck, or they borrow to live. They're on a treadmill running fast, going nowhere. The wealthy understand a different principle. Ownership creates freedom. The landlord collects the rent from the tenants. The business owner profits while employees trade their time for money. The record label owns the masters while the artists get royalties. The publisher owns the rights while the writer gets a percentage. Remember, if you don't own it, you're working for somebody else who does. Now, when we start talking about ownership and we start moving into this level, one of the things that I've always said too is that 80% of the people in the world are complaining about their job. They're complaining about their life. They're complaining about how hard it is. They're complaining about what's happening in the government and what the president is doing and what he's not doing, or what's happening over here and what's happening over there. 80% of the people are complaining. But guess what? Those 80% of the people that are always complaining, they work for 20% of the people who don't complain, who are owners, who step up to the plate and embraced and took the ownership, didn't have any excuses, didn't care what somebody else is doing on the other side, didn't care what was happening in the government, didn't happen what this happened on the right side or on the left side, what happened with the Democrats, what happened with the Republicans. They didn't care about any of that. They stepped into a level of consciousness of ownership, and they began to take control of their life. Ask yourself the question, what do I truly own? What do I truly own? Do you own your income streams, or do you rely on someone else to pay you? Do you own your own brand, or does your success depend on platforms that could disappear tomorrow? Do you own your own business, or are you spending your life making somebody else's dreams a reality? If you don't like the answers to these questions, it's time to make a change. And I want to make that clear. One thing I love about this kind of teaching is that I tell people all the time, you don't have to wait till next week. You don't have to wait till next year. You don't have to wait till next month. You can make a change right now, right here, at this very moment. And you could say to yourself, I'm going to start taking the ownership in my life. I'm going to start moving into a level of consciousness of ownership. And one of the ways that we do that is by moving into a level of shifting in our consciousness. Stop thinking like an employee, start thinking like an owner. Create assets that make money even when you're not working. Invest in things that appreciate in value, such things like land, real estate, businesses, intellectual property. And the intellectual property is amazing because so many of us have so many great ideas. We have so many concepts. Some of us have great ideas for movies, great ideas for books, great ideas for TV shows. Some of us have great ideas for all kinds of things that people will be blessed by. Children's books, all kinds of stuff, right? Puzzles, games, everything, right? It's time for you to move into a level of ownership and begin to create the life that you want to live. Own your financial education, because knowledge is the first step to ownership. Knowledge is the first step to ownership. Why? Because with knowledge, it gives you the availability of the knowing how, of the knowing why, of the knowing when. Your brand is not just a name. It's not just a logo. It's not just a product. Your brand is your power. It has your presence. It has your reputation, your value in the marketplace. The biggest mistake people make is they let somebody else define them. I want you to do me a favor this week. I want you to define yourself. Define yourself. If somebody said, I want you to tell me who you are. Define yourself to me. I want you to give an honest definition of defining yourself, of how you look at yourself, because that's where it starts at. It's not about letting somebody else define you, but are you able to define yourself honestly, and be honest in your approach to defining yourself? If you work for a company, then they control your brand. If you depend on social media, they control your visibility. If you don't own your name, somebody else can profit from it. So, a lot of us, most of the people on here, we're on social media all the time. Everybody's on their phones. When you start operating in business, if you start operating in things, you start posting on social media, you start posting on, all of these social medias, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of these social media platforms. And so what happens now, like happened before when TikTok shut down, everybody was, in disarray because people were making a lot of money with TikTok. And so it brings you to a place like, what other things could I have put in place to implement the possibility that one day I could wake up and Facebook could no longer be, or Instagram could no longer be, or TikTok could be gone. These are the things that we are saying, that we have to make sure that we put ourselves in a position not to rely on somebody else, that if they shut down tomorrow, our whole world is crumbling. But put ourselves in a position that no matter what happens, I'm still maintaining my ownership. Some of you may say, well, how do I own my brand? Your brand is you. Your brand is your presence. It's your value. It's your face. It's you. You own your own brand. There is no separation between you and your brand. When I see you, I see your brand. When I see your brand, I see you. There's no separation in that. Your brand is how you think. Your brand is how you walk. Your brand is how you talk. Your brand is your value. Your brand is your gift, your talent. Your brand is you. Somebody that knows you can look at your brand and say, oh, yeah, that's them. That's definitely them to a T, because there's no separation between you and your brand. Now understand this. Even in your brand, you want ownership. You want ownership of everything that you do. You don't want to have to rely on anybody. I think the worst thing in the world is to have to rely on somebody before you can move. Like, I can't do this until this person shows up, or I can't do this until this person gives me the okay. And so now you're at the beck and call, or you're at the limitation of somebody else because you're waiting. You want to be able to move and to orchestrate and to begin to develop and create the life that you want to live. Trademark your name and your identity. Yes, you can trademark your name. You can make your name a business. Guess what happens? Sally J. Johnson, that's her name, right? Do you know that Sally J. Johnson can go down to the Secretary of State, and for $15, she can say Sally J. Johnson is doing business as Sally J. Johnson? So what do you mean? What she did was she took her name and turned it into a business. So now Sally J. Johnson is doing business as Sally J. Johnson. The new Sally J. Johnson is a business. It's her name. It's her brand. She can print T-shirts. She can sell cookies. She can do whatever she wants to do now because she's operating as a brand. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to see the concept here. Own your website, your domain. Don't rely on social media alone. I know we're moving into the social media, we're moving into the AI, we're moving into the high levels of technology, but I want you to also keep and understand and maintain your ownership. Maximize your enterprises. Package your knowledge in products. Build an email list so that your followers will have access to you and that you don't have to worry about borrowing them from other platforms. Because, and so what I mean by that, and this is more of an in-depth of a business, but what I mean by that is many of you was on Facebook and social media and you saw something that you liked. It was a product, it was a digital course, it was something, and you clicked the button to sign up for it. When you signed up for it, you put your email address in there, you put your telephone number in there, you're on that person's email list. So now what happens is if social media breaks down and it goes down, guess what? That person still has contact to you because they can send you a text message, they can send you an email. And so what I'm saying is once you get into the understanding of the ownership, these are just some ideas that I'm putting out there to kind of shake up the waters so that you guys can expand your level of consciousness. Own your own business. Stop building for others. As I said before, 80% of the people who complain, they work for 20% of the people who actually do it. They don't just complain about it. If you work a job, now a job they say is JOB, just over broke. That's what they say a job is. If you work a job, you are renting your time for a paycheck. If you own a business, your business works for you. Now, I'm going to say this, and, I could get in trouble for saying this, but, many of us who work a regular job, you are getting compensated. There's a difference between compensation and income. And so many of us who are working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, you're not making an income, you're being compensated. You're getting paid to work 8 hours a day. You're getting your time, they're paying you for your time. So you're getting paid to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. You're not making income, you're being compensated for your time. I just want to let that sit there with you because when income tax comes, I never really understand where this income tax comes from because you're not getting income, you're being compensated. There's a big difference between compensation and income. But I just wanted to put that out there that if you work a 9 to 5 or you work for somebody else and you're an employee, you're renting your time for a paycheck. The reason why the wealthiest people don't work a job is because they build companies, they build streams of income. Owning a business will allow you to control your income. There will be no cap on what you can earn. You can leverage your time, hire others, automate systems. So you have more time with your family, more time to travel, more time to create other assets, more time to do the things that you always wanted to do. Why? Because if you got to work 8 hours a day, you got to wake up in the morning, you got to get dressed, you got to get to work, you got to do all of that. So we're looking at another 2 hours already on top of that. Then, you got to get from work back to home, unless you have to go pick up the kids. Then you got to get home, you got to do homework, you got to cook dinner, you got to do all these different things. And then you got to go to bed and wake up and do the same thing over and over again, every day, Monday through Friday. So imagine if you didn't have to work those 8 hours. If you didn't have to do that, those 8 hours, that time, those 40 hours a week could be allotted to something else, could be allotted to spending time with family, Could be allotted to travel. Could be allotted to doing so many other things that you want to do and love to do. Owning your own business creates generational wealth because your businesses can outlive you. They go from generation to generation to generation to generation. And some of you may say, well, how do I start a business? What's the first step? You know, start something, even if it's small. I just gave a lot of you an idea. You can go down to the Secretary of State and do a DBA, doing business as. Tyrone Johnson is doing business as Tyrone Johnson Enterprises. Tyrone Johnson is doing business as Tyrone Johnson LLC. Whatever it is you want to call your business, you can make your name into a business, and then you can take that business and do whatever you want to do with it. Create multiple income streams. Invest in assets that generate cash flow. So a lot of you, you can say, I'm going to start investing in stocks. I'm going to start investing in crypto. Why? Because I believe that the money that I have allotted that I waste and spend on other stuff, I can use that money and put it to work, because that money will now begin to work for me. Money is designed to work for us, not we work for money. So that's the difference why the wealthy are continuing to be wealthy, because their money continues to grow and expand and continues to create more money. You're never going to get rich or successful working for somebody else. You got to be able to control your own destiny. I mean, how would it feel to wake up in the morning and not have to worry about paying any bills? How would it feel to wake up in the morning and realize that I don't have to work a job? I don't have to clock in. I don't have to explain to somebody why I'm late. I don't have to call in and tell the person I'm not coming to work today because I don't feel good. I don't have to argue with somebody because my check was short and I need to go and clarify a payroll that my check wasn't where it's supposed to be. I don't have to deal with all of that. Why? Because I'm moving in a level of ownership. I'm standing on this pillar of ownership. Well, when you leave this call today, when you leave this, I want you to move into a level of, what business can I start? How can I expand my brand? My brand is who you are. That's who you are. Your brand. You are your brand. So I'll say this. Everybody that's listening to me right now, you have a gift and a talent. You were born with a gift and talent. Everybody listening to me. There's nobody that's rich or successful that does not provide a service. Nobody. You can name me anybody right now who's wealthy, and I can tell you that they all provide a service. Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Bill Gates, they all provide a service. Bill Gates gives us Microsoft. Oprah Winfrey gives us OWN. She gives us the TV show. Tyler Perry gives us a movie. He provides a service. He gives us entertainment. Steve Jobs gives us the iPhone. They provide a service. There's nobody that's rich or wealthy that does not provide a service. Richard Branson, he gave us Virgin Airlines. He gave us Rolling Stones. He gave us the Virgin Hotel in Vegas, right? They provide a service. What service do you provide? What gift and what talent is inside of you that needs to be activated for you to begin to come into a place where we move into a mindset of ownership? Some of you have books inside of you. Some of you have TV shows inside of you. Some of you have purses and shoes and fashion design. Some of you there's so many ideas. There's millions of dollars. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. There's millions of dollars inside of your head. You know what we got to do? We got to figure out how to get it out. You know how you get it out, ladies and gentlemen? Ownership. Ownership. Build something that grows in value over time. And that's another thing, ladies and gentlemen. These things that I'm teaching, this is not for the quick fix. This is for great stability and longevity. I don't want the quick fix. I want to be able to build my wealth and continue to endure it to the test of time. That even after I'm gone, my wealth is still accumulating and still expanding and still growing. And so there's so many great ideas, even in the place that you're in now. I want everybody to walk away from today saying in their minds, ownership. I just want you to keep saying that in your mind, ownership. And what does that mean to you? Ownership. Because the more you say it, everybody right now, if you say ownership, it means something different to everybody right now. Everybody's on a different level. So ownership to one person may be something different to the other person, right? But the more you keep saying it to yourself, the more you're going to get in tune with that word, and you'll begin to realize, man, I need to start moving into ownership. What is it that I own? What do I own? Because if I don't own, I'm not grown. When you are grown, you're own. And so what happens with my ownership? How I move into ownership and begin to start thinking as an owner, not a worker, not an employee, but as a owner. Because see, when you start operating as an owner, you deal with things differently. There's certain things you don't tolerate. There's certain things you don't deal with. You're an owner. That consciousness begins to shift, and when you begin to shift that consciousness into an ownership's consciousness, things begin to look very differently than they did before. Did you know that your ideas, your knowledge, will create assets for you? I said this earlier. A lot of you have books inside of you. A book is an asset. You can write a book that can save thousands of people's lives. You can write a book that gives a testimony of things you went through in your life. And those testimonials of your story can help people overcome so many different things. Because guess what? Wisdom is learning what to do and what not to do from somebody else who did it before you. So you could write a book that gives people instructions and gives people the dynamics of your life story, and they can read your book and say, oh my God, I'm so glad I read this book because I was about to do this, but because she said it in her book that she went through this, I don't have to go through that anymore because she's already told us, don't go that way, go this way. Your book is inside of you. Your book is an asset. Your course. Some of you have the ability to create courses that you can teach. A patent. Some of you have been sitting in your mind watching TV one night thinking about, you know what, it would be so simple if we had this and we could create this and this could do this. You have patents, ideas that you can create. Your name, your brand name is an asset. When we look at the names of these major corporations, their brands, their names are an asset. When you see the McDonald's, when you see Burger King, when you see the NBA, the NFL, when you see Louis Vuitton, when you see Gucci, those names are assets. As soon as you see those names, you know what they are. You know it's money. But guess what? Your name could be the same. Many people give their knowledge for free while others profit from it. And so we're talking about ownership. And I'm just giving you some examples of what ownership means. Ownership means that, yes, you copyright your books, you copyright your content, your videos, you license your knowledge to create courses and trainings, which means that I'm giving you a license. You have to pay me to get a license to use my information for a certain period of time under certain stipulations, right? You monetize your expertise uh, and you create value and you package it. You monetize your expertise by creating value, and then you package it. You package your expertise. This is one of the most important things that we can do is own your decisions. You don't need permission to build your own brand. You don't need permission to start a business. You don't need permission to claim your financial freedom. You don't need permission. Ownership starts with the decision to control your life. That's why the pillar of ownership is so important, because in order for me to maximize success, I gotta have ownership. I gotta be able to have ownership. You know, it was amazing. I never told nobody the story, but uh, this was in the early 2000s. I was still living in New York City, where I was born and raised, and I happened to be working at J.P. Morgan Chase. Now, I was working at the main headquarters, which was on 270 Park Avenue in the city, and at that facility was where the main the main headquarters, the CEO, Jamie Dimon, and all of those guys worked. One day, everybody was there, and they were saying Michael Jordan is downstairs, the NBA great, 6 championship, baseball playing Michael Jordan, right? And so we go downstairs and we meet Michael Jordan. We shake his hand, and he's there. And he's being very hospitable, very pleasant with us. And he was there because he was accumulating funds to buy the Charlotte at the time, the Charlotte Bobcats, which was an NBA team that he bought. So he bought the team and became the owner of the team. And so, to me, that was a very great asset for him, because I believe he bought the NBA, the Charlotte Bobcats, which later changed their name back to the Charlotte Hornets. But I think he bought it for $600 million. But he owned it. He owned it outright, right? When you're putting yourself in a position of ownership, you understand that you don't need somebody's permission to build your own brand, to start a business, or to claim your financial freedom. You don't need anybody's permission. You have to give yourself permission. Let me tell you why. Because if you don't give yourself permission, you're going to start coming up with excuses why you can't do it. We talked about this in the Money Mindset Manifestation series, that a lot of times we have to give ourselves permission, because we are the ones hindering ourselves. We're the ones giving excuses. Well, I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in the projects, and we didn't have this and we didn't have this. So we come up with all these excuses why we can't move into ownership, when the only thing that's stopping you from getting into ownership is a decision. Because once you make a decision to move into ownership, everything's beginning to change now. That's why ownership is consciousness. It's not about what you're owning. Before Michael Jordan said to himself, I want to own the Charlotte Bobcats team. I want to be one of the people, only black owners of the NBA team is black. I want to be the only one. I want to step up and do this, right? Now, originally, I believe he bought it from Bob Johnson, who was the creator of BET, the Black Entertainment Television Network. And so Michael Jordan now became the second black owner of a major sports team. But he had to make the decision consciously first to say, I want to move into this level of ownership. Because believe it or not, other than that, Michael Jordan didn't own anything. Michael Jordan doesn't own the Nike sneakers that cost $300-$400 that has his name on them. but he's a partner with Nike. He doesn't just own them, but he's a partner, right? But when you start moving into ownership and when you start moving into that ownership consciousness, now it goes beyond that. Guess what? Now Michael Jordan has went past the NBA. He owns NASDAQ cars. He's had his hand in all kind of other stuff going on now. So we see once you move into ownership, things begin to change. There's a new dimension. There's a new dynamic that takes place. Financial freedom allows you to control your income. Generational wealth allows you to build assets that last beyond you. Time freedom allows you to control your schedule, not your schedule controls you. Leverage, right? Your money and assets will work for you. The leverage. Leverage is consciousness. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I understand when we talk about ownership, everybody goes to automatically thinking about what do I own in my physical life. But before you get to what you own physically, you got to understand the level of consciousness of ownership. Do I own my mind? Do I own my feelings? Do I own my gifts and my talents? Those are the things that you have to own. Because once you own your mind, once you own your feelings, once you own your gifts and your talents, now you're able to move into a level of how could I take this and now bring it into a physical reality. Ownership gives you legacy. Legacy allows your name and your work to live on. Ownership gives you real security. No one can fire you from what you own. No one can ever fire you from what you own. Ownership gives you control. It allows you to make the rules. Ownership gives you equity. What you own increases in value. Ownership gives you authority. You set the terms of your success. Ownership allows you to grow. Ownership will allow you to grow, and ownership forces you to develop discipline. Personal growth gives you the discipline. Why? Because you realize that the discipline that you have has allowed you to get to where you're at. There's a reason why discipline is important. And because if you're not disciplined, you can sabotage and you can get in your own way and you can sabotage what you're trying to build. Fulfillment. Ownership gives you fulfillment. It's creating something of your own that gives you a deep rewarding. Ownership gives you impact. It allows you to change others' lives. See, when you're an owner, you can bless everybody else. I look at the story of Kevin Hart, the comedian. So Kevin Hart is a multi-millionaire. I believe he's worth about $400 or $500 million. One of the most successful comics in the world, probably the most successful comic that we've ever seen. He's packing out arenas, football stadiums all over the world. But he has a group of guys, about 4 or 5 guys, called the Plastic Cup Boys. These are his friends. They help him write his movies. They help him write his jokes. They help him do a part of his team. But when he got to that status, he also made sure that they were taken care of. And that's what ownership does. It allows you to take care and bless other people. Ownership gives you true freedom because no one owns you. And when you look at it from that perspective, you begin to understand, what do I own? I have to activate this pillar of ownership, because in my ownership, I want to be able to own and control my life. I don't want anybody else controlling me. I want to control my life. And then now it comes into a place of ownership. And you have to start declaring, I own my success and I control my destiny. You have to start speaking things like, I build assets through generational wealth. I am a business owner, not just a worker. My brand is my power, and I own it fully. I monetize my knowledge and protect my intellectual property. You got to start speaking this stuff. I stop renting. I now own. I build wealth that lasts for generations. My success is in my hands. I am financially, mentally, and spiritually free. Ownership is my birthright. I control my destiny. Ownership is not a luxury. Ladies and gentlemen, ownership is a necessity. Let me say that again. Ownership is not a luxury. Ownership is a necessity. Take back your power. Own your life. Build your legacy. Because if you don't own it, somebody else will. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got something out of today's teaching. This is on the pillar of ownership. I want everybody listening to me to say this week, just keep saying the word ownership. Just keep saying the word ownership, ownership. Just keep saying that word ownership, and watch how things begin to just start bubbling inside of you. Ownership. The ideas, the things will begin to change. I'm telling you. Listen, you are not grown until you own. Ownership is where we are, ladies and gentlemen. You want the key to freedom. You want the key to happiness. You want the key to love and all these great things that you want. Ownership. Ownership, ladies and gentlemen. Ownership. This is pillar number 2. Every week we're going higher. Every week we're going to a higher level, a deeper depth. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for tuning in to today's lesson. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope that you can take this, digest it, listen to it again, over and over again this week, so that you can really pull out the golden nuggets and really go back and listen to really take in what was said today. Because I believe that everybody in here is an owner. Everybody listening to this, you are an owner. There's a reason why you heard this. Somebody shared this with you. Somebody sent you this way in this direction. Somebody connected you to us. Whatever was said today, you needed to hear this. There's an owner in you, and the owner needed to be activated. There's an owner inside of you that needed to be activated. The key needed to be turned so that you can start activating that owner in you, because you're getting ready to move into ownership. And so that's what happened. You're getting ready to move into a level of ownership. And so that owner had to be activated inside of you. And understand, every pillar we stand on, we begin to activate it inside of us. There is no separation from the ownership in us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going somewhere here. I want you to stay with me. Every week, same place, same time. It gets better every week. Trust me, stay with me. We're going somewhere. We're going to the higher levels and the deeper depths. Ownership is the word for the week. I want to give you guys an opportunity. I want to say thank you for your commitment, for your consistency of being with us, helping us share it, helping us get the word out. We are forever grateful. Listen, what I want you to do is we are moving into our circulation. If somebody is listening to this teaching and say, you know what, brother, man, you really dropping some jewels, man. You really dropped some real stuff today. You really messed me up. You really made me uncomfortable in how I was living. And you made me feel a certain kind of way because you speaking the truth. brother, I want to be a blessing to your ministry. I want to be a blessing to your organization. I want to give you, there's a few ways that you can give. We always ask everybody to sow the $26 seed as a circulation. We believe that once you release a seed, it goes out and it returns back to its original point of origin. And so we want to give you the opportunity to be a blessing. There's 4 ways that you can give. They're also in the bottom of the description, but you can also send it to Cash App. Some of you may say, I only have $5, $10, $15. Some of you may say, you know what, brother, I want to give you more than the $26. Whatever it is that you have on your heart's desire, we believe that you will receive a 100-fold return. We believe that as a man soweth, that shall he reap. And so we believe that by sowing into us and helping us out, that doors will begin to open for you as you move into your level of ownership, as you move into your level of success. As you continue to walk these 8 pillars of success, you'll see things start opening and doors and opportunities will begin to present themselves to you. And so there's 4 ways that you can give. Those 4 ways are, number 1, Cash App. It's going to be TOESC. There's going to be $ TOESC. That's Cash App. Number 2, we have Zelle and PayPal. Zelle and PayPal are going to be info, INFO, at TOESC.org. Once again, that's going to be for Zelle and PayPal. It's going to be info at TOESC.org. We also have Venmo. Those of you that want to get involved with Venmo, it's going to be Issachar Bey. It's going to be ISSACHARBEY at gmail.com. Issachar Bey at gmail.com. Also, our address is also in the description. If any of you want to send a physical check or a money order, you can make it out to the Temple of Enlightenment, and you can send it to our address. We are forever grateful for all donations, for all gifts, anything that you send. We greatly appreciate it. I want to say this one thing. As you move into your level of ownership, I want to say this one thing, that your destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. Nobody's going to make you or force you to become an owner. You have to make the choice to step into ownership. And I also want to say this one thing also. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.